that I was doing this interview and I got a lot of interesting questions, and a lot of them were centered around profitability. And I think that's when people think about teams, that's their big concern, is all this overhead, all this spend, and then making it pencil at the end.
Yeah.
So tell me about how you look at profitability with a team of that size.
I'll tell you this. I joined a coaching program that was so focused on profitability that it stunted my growth. And it got in the way of what was possible long-term for what I'm up to. So I've been somebody who, thankfully, I've made a lot of money doing this, and there were decisions that I made along the way to make my team more profitable than most. So I'll give you one key tip, and anyone who is creating a team, I want you to really think about this. So if you're somebody who's doing your whole team by referral only, it's time to up your game on the digital side. I recognize that what you're doing is easier and the business to close is easier, but that does not mean that it's the right decision. Okay. So for me, I was doing Facebook ads the first year Facebook ads came out, and I was heavily investing. So I invested at that time, what heavily investing was to me, $21,000 the first year. Now I spend more than that a month on Facebook ads, right? But at that time, that was like an insane amount of money. And so I'm bringing this up for a specific reason. When I was trying to figure out profitability on my team, I thought about it this way. If I have a direct referral and you're on my team and I say, okay, Oliver, this is my sorority sister. She's committed to using us already because of our relationship. Here you go.
Yeah.
I charge you 50% for that relationship. I'm giving up a ton of profitability in that handoff.
Right.
And so where I see most team leaders get stunted in their growth is they can't do it. They can't stomach giving away their friend and then losing 50%. And so instead of taking that loss and feeling chained to work with all these buyers, I said, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm scaling a massive business, and for those personal referrals, I'm going to hire somebody who just works with my personal referrals. I'm going to pay that person a salary.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm going to bonus them. And so where a lot of people don't have the profitability left in their business, I am someone who does not believe a 50-50 model works.
Go on.
I don't. For some of you out there listening, you want to believe it's possible, but to be able to scale the kind of business I have, you cannot pay 50%. By the time you pay 50% on a listing, and then you pay for the photos, and you pay for the marketing, and you pay for the field services person to put the sign out, and you pay for the listing coordinator to service the listing agent to make sure that they can scale a business, you end up broke.
Yeah.
So I believe that the profit models that people think about are broken. They're from an old way of doing business. And back in that day, the buyer's agents were the ones that were making the phone calls. The listing agents were doing circle prospecting, and they were doing all of this stuff. And that does not keep people on your team today. You need to have appointments, not leads, right?
So that's a good little soundbite. You need to have appointments, not leads.
Yeah, if you just have a bunch of leads, like nobody effing cares.
Right.
Right? They can go pay for their own Zillow leads.
Like, here, call my Excel spreadsheet from 2010.
Yeah, that's old news, guys.
Yeah.
So to me, look at that service. To me, the traditional way of building a team is broken. And what will happen if you set it up that way and you make those poor decisions from the beginning is you're going to have a point where you're making a very scary decision. Do you risk changing the way that you've paid everyone? And they've trusted you, by the way, to create a path towards their future. And so they've built their life based on the plan that you've put in front of them. And you have not done enough to be magnetic and attract them with a split that can fulfill all of the commitments you're making to them. So when people are only focused on split, they're not the right fit for my team. Now, if they have a large SOI business, I understand why their focus is there. And that's why we created an SOI cap. I want to reward the people who are hunters.
Yeah.
But for people who are just going to close the business I give them, which I have quite a few on my team, and before I created the SOI cap, they were all that way. None of them hunted because they didn't have to. I was there generating all the leads for them.
Yeah. It's actually a really smart way to not only attract people, but also retain people. Because now what happens that I see what happens with most people on teams is exactly what you just said. They start doing a lot more sphere of influence deals. As they start doing more deals from, deals they've been handed, those turn into more transactions and referrals. And then all of a sudden they're still on a 50-50 split and they're like, screw this, I'm out. So by capping those sphere of influence deals, I love how that helps you attract and retain good talent.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by not setting it up, like my listing agents, I'll tell you how they're compensated. They're on a tiered structure. And so I already know when I'm going to say this, a lot of you watching are going to say, I would never be on her team. Well, great. A lot of the people on my team are going to outproduce you and they're going to make a ton more money than you.
Boom, boom.
It's true. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a blatant fact. But here's how their comp strategy works. The first 12 transactions, if they're team transactions, they're making 12.5%. The next 12 transactions, it bumps up and it keeps going up with every group that they hit. So I just did a calculation with one of my brand new agents. Now her income goal for this year is 250, right? And she's like, my first year and I want to make 250, and then the next year I want to make 300. And I've been an agent on my own for a long time and I haven't been able to accomplish that. And so we sat down and we calculated it out. And to accomplish that, she only had to have 8 SOI deals. Well, that's about what she was doing on her own. Mm-hmm. So for her, she's super excited about that. She's like, I can do 8. But beyond 8, I wasn't able to break that threshold. Mm-hmm. So it's all about figuring out how to provide value. And where I think most team leaders end up lacking profit, and then they can't hire the right ISAs. They can't hire the caliber of support that's needed. They fall down on their commitment. Just like I said about overstaffing to fix the client's concerns, you're also fixing the agent's concerns. Yeah. So
and people start taking things away to try to save money when they really should be adding more stuff to provide more value.
Absolutely. So instead, it becomes this like race to the bottom with splits, and then everybody doesn't need you. Mm-hmm.
Love that. Great thoughts on teams and kind of team building. So what's your next thing? What are you doing now to grow? What's kind of